My father was born in Hungary. He born in October 1925. He grew up in Hungary, basically in Tolcsva, and later on in other places all around Hungary where he studied Torah. In the Second World War, all his family was murdered by the Nazis. He jumped from a train. He wrote a book about it, about the unique story. And after the war, he came back to Tolcsva to find out what happened with his family, and he realized that after a couple of months, that no one is alive. He's a sole survivor from an entire family. Since then, he decided to make Aliyah, and he came to Israel, and he established a family. So the story of Hungary and the story of my father, as you understand, is a very important part of the story. We heard stories from Hungary, from Tolcsva, from the places that he studied, very interesting stories. He didn't talk about the Holocaust for years. I think that the first time that he talked more about it, it was with his grandchildren. He was in Hungary a lot of times. He came almost once a year. But the first visit was with him, with my sister, with her eldest child, and with my eldest child. 5 of us, and we traveled all around Hungary with him, heard the stories. We lived in Budapest, and we took rides with the car all around Hungary. Later on, in 2008, I think, we came, the whole family. My mother and my father, the family of my sister with their 3 children, and my family with my wife and our 3 children, and we traveled all around Hungary with him after the story, from Tolcsva until the end of the world. And the last time was a couple of years ago, I think about 2011 or 2012. My sister, my father and me traveled again to Hungary, to a unique place that he wanted us to be, and this was the last time. I think that they lived in a community. They allow them to be there, they allow them to work, they allow them to do everything, but I cannot ignore that from the stories you understand that even though that they were there and they studied, that they worked, it was complicated to be a Jew. And at the end of the war, it reached to the point that it understand that they didn't want us not only in Hungary, but on the earth. This is the story of all our nation. By the way, he was familiar with all the groups, and he felt very comfortable in each and every group, from the left side to the right side. From his point of view, all of them were Jews, and it's okay, and he felt very comfortable. So I think that he realized that his place is to come to Israel. He came to Israel, but he didn't reach Israel. They catch him and they send him to Cyprus for a couple of months, and later on he reached Israel. He devoted his life to education. as a teacher, as a principal, as a manager of a unique place for 120 children without families. First time that he flew to Hungary, I think it was in the 90s, maybe in the 80s, not before. First of all, I think that he wanted to understand what happened, to realize about his family, about what happened, what are the signs that you have, what remained from them, what remained from the house. Not from the physical point of view, from the mental point of view, to know. So we just investigated everything. He read a lot, he tried to figure out what happened and where they are and where are the cemeteries and what to do with it. So we tried to, and he found the places in Tolchva and other places, and in Budapest, where his family was there before the war. And by the way, I think that he paid a lot of money to the cemeteries people to take care of the cemetery in the old area. They were ultra-Orthodox. Chazan and Rabbi, my father, my grandfather, my uncle were Chazanim. His family name was Mandel. The family name of my grandmother is Neulander, and there were a lot of Chazanim and Rabbanim from these families. So this was a very important part. It was a religious community. He studied in a cheder, he studied in yeshivas, and they sent him to study. He was not in Tolchva. He was in Tolchva at the beginning, and later on he was in Boniad, Chateau Yahuyel, Paksh, and other places to study. He wrote the book for himself, for his family, for his friends, and for people that he wanted to share with them. By the way, he wrote, there were a lot of copies, and just gave it to others, and it is very readable. It means that a lot of people are reading this book, especially this book, the קפיצה גורלית מהרכבת. It's an amazing book, because it's very simple, very straightforward, a lot of stories, in a very simple way to understand where he was, what happened to the family, what happened in the past and what happened now. Amazing story of himself. And I think that he wrote these two books, the קפיצה גורלית מהרכבת and the poema pedagogit. This is about the whole family, and this is mainly from his point of view. And I think that it was very important for him to tell the story. Since he didn't have a family, he had some relatives, not brother, not father, not mother, not sisters, some nephews in some places in Israel. But mainly he had some specific nephews that he was in contact with them. He really liked them and loved them, and they loved him. In Haifa, in Rishon, in other places, but in the area that we live, they were like a family, but the family was not a real family. It was a family of people who came from Hungary, and they were like my uncles. So we have a very close family. The family was Vardi, Bracha, and Avri, and they were like my real families. Their sons were like my nephews. We didn't have other nephews, but it's not only him. It's not happened not only to our family. Holocaust survivors didn't have family, so usually they arrange a family. They arranged a family. Friends became a family, and it was like a family, real family. My mother didn't come from Hungary. So my father and my mother didn't talk Hungarian at all. But our uncles, so-called uncles, talked only Hungarians. They didn't know a lot of Hebrew. At the end, they knew, but we know only very few words in Hungarian. At the age of 18, each and every young person joined the army. So I joined the army. I joined the Air Force. I became a fighter pilot. I stayed in the Air Force. By the way, he didn't ask me to do anything. After a couple of years, I realized that this is what he wanted me to do. But I served in the Air Force for 33 years. I became the Israeli Air Force commander. And, it's like, in a way, some magical situation. A son of a sole survivor from an entire family coming to Israel. And his son becoming the Israeli Air Force commander, What he told me, if someone would have told me to dream the most amazing dream 70 years ago about what I want that will happen, no way that I could even think about even close story like the story of our country, the state of Israel, Jerusalem, proud, very unique country, and my son will be the Israeli Air Force commander. By the way, he didn't call it the Israeli Air Force commander. He told me, you are the commander of the Israeli Air Force and of the Jewish nation Air Force. This was the title of my job. I was done with my job. I served the 33 years in the Air Force, more than 4 years of them as the Air Force commander. And I became the CEO of El Al, the president and the CEO of El Al. And as my father said, it's not you had the privilege to be the commander of the military wings of the State of Israel and of the Jewish nation. Now you have the honor to serve as the president and the CEO, the manager of the civilian wings of the State of Israel and of the Jewish nation. So honestly, I had an honor to serve as the commander of the Air Force and the CEO of El Al. I remember that in the first visit we came with a car to the place. We found the house that he lived in. And we were in a nice car with nice clothes, my father, my sister, me and our 2 children, Yotam and Nimrod. And we reached the house. And he began to talk with the lady that is now living in the house. He really loved liked to come to Hungary. I think that he liked the memories. Since he didn't have a family, he remembered, he talked, very interesting situation. And I think that now, the fact what you are doing now, I think it's very important. By the way, what you are doing of arranging, remembering, talking, trying to collect all the things. I don't know if you would have come 10 years from now, maybe you wouldn't find this kind of book. It's very important. I think what the Jewish community in Hungary is doing now in Hungary about the synagogues, about the collection, about the interviews, about the understanding, about what happened. It's very important. Even to find the Hungarian families that are living in Israel now, what happened. It's a happy stories. It was a catastrophe story that became a happy story.